Oh, sorry. Take it!
Last
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dcpc. We're back. Woo! Sorry, I'm a little late. Had some technical difficulties, but you know how that is. Since it's been a while, I've since changed locations, but still going to give you the show, and hopefully it'll be a little bit more consistent. Alrighty. Woo. Alright, we're doing this on the fly. Fuck it, we're doing live, or however it was said. Alrighty. Cool. How's everybody doing? Alright. Let's see. What? Alright. And then we can... Ha-ha! Alright, almost. It's fine. We're gonna just do this as we go. Got anybody... Don't have anybody in here? That's okay. I'll just do this for myself. Alright, there we go. Oh, alright. I'm schwitzing. Alright, let's see, what is it? It's Tuesday, October 22nd, 1992. Just kidding. It's 2024, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I don't know how you feel about time. Yummy. Oh, alright. I guess I'm going to have to stop that. Alright. Yeah, I got this fancy camera that follows you around. But it's not... Oh. Ooh. And, ooh. Hi. Alright. Cool. Great way to start a show. Nah, it's all good. Alrighty. There we go. That's good. Stay. Yeah, so things have been good. Changed locations now, so I'm in a different, universe, maybe. I don't know. We'll figure out all the lore later on. Anyway, so this is the Dcpc, the DC's political corner, where I just, talk about all the stuff that I find interesting, both as a character and not as a character. I'm going to try to maintain a consistent schedule. So today, Tuesdays will be mostly news and political products. Yeah, no. Particular projects. I know how to speak. That I find interesting. And then we will move on. We'll do news. Anything I'm interested in. Today we're just going to do some news stuff because it's been a while and there's a lot to catch up on. Not just election stuff. There's some of that. You can see from they already have early voting results, so we'll just take a look at those. Trump put his money where his mouth is and worked a shift at McDonald's. It was mostly on the guides that he's saying that Kamala Harris didn't actually work at McDonald's when she was a teenager, and not the fact that McDonald's is his only food group that he eats. So that was interesting. We'll talk about how Trump to this day still doesn't know how tariffs work. In case you're unaware, tariffs are a tax on those who are importing goods, not from the country importing. So if China imports like furniture or computers or whatever, the person importing has to pay that tariff. And usually what they'll do is they'll just pass it on to you, the consumer. So you end up paying more. And yeah, so he still doesn't understand how that works. So that's interesting. Tim Pool's retiring. He's some guy I talked about last time where he was allegedly sent money by Russia. There's been a lot of Twitch H3H3 Ethan Klein drama lately with the banning of 4 particular Twitch streamers who part of the Arabs podcast. They were doing a panel at TwitchCon in which, the story I have gets into it. It's from, our old friend Philly D, who I've been watching since I was a child. That's how old I am. And now he's still here. He's like one of the only guys still here. I don't know if Ray William Johnson makes stuff, but yeah. And then we're just going to talk about the ballot questions on Massachusetts. The Massachusetts ballot questions. There's a good series of videos that just go through it. And why I encourage you to vote yes on all of them if you live in the state of Massachusetts and are registered to vote. And you should register to vote. It's not too late. You can do mail-in. That's what I did. Yeah, that's right. I voted by mail. Actually, it's still in my car. I gotta go drop it off at the post office. And then, so if you're a Massachusetts resident, if you're a resident anywhere, you can still, I'm pretty sure you can still register to vote in many states. There are a couple states where you can register the day of, on election day to vote. So it's been a pretty interesting election. I don't know. I'm kind of like burnt out, to be honest. It's been like a hard season. There's just been a lot. You kind of just want it to return back to normal, really, like before Trump, which isn't really an option anymore. Like, he is part of the ethos. And also now you're dealing with a genocide, which both parties refuse to acknowledge. It's just not fun. I'm bummed, I'm bummed, man, about all of this crap. All right, let's center ourselves. Okay. Maybe we'll try not with the green screen in a little bit. I don't know. It's just my space is kind of a mess. All right. Okay. Now that that's out of the way. Oh, and then cool, because I know how to keep all right. It's Baja Blast Zero Sugar out of a Boba Fett cup. He's pretty cool. Anyways, that is that. So, Tuesdays are going to typically be this sort of format. We'll go over all the topics we're going to discuss today. Maybe there are more. Again, if you have any topics you want to discuss, feel free to throw them in the chat. Yeah. Alrighty. Let us see. And then I'll want to try to stream at least one other time a week. It might not necessarily be the same format. Maybe we'll do a little gaming. Bring back the I play games badly segment. Maybe with some sponsored content. I don't know. Yummy. Okay. Cool. So. Yeah, and then maybe some like lore stuff, like whatever I'm hyper fixating on at the time. Right now it's 40K, but it could also be like Star Wars or, history. I do love pirates, so maybe we'll do some of that. Yeah, we'll see. It'll be more of a variety. Alrighty. So, we are going to start off with a fun. Oh, God. I am so professional. I am such a professional, guys. You have no idea. Alrighty. F it. I'll fix it later. All right. Let's go into our first video of the day. Yay! Israeli airstrike kills 18 near Lebanon's largest public hospital. Great. Yay. This is so fun. Aren't you guys glad you came in here? Cool. All right, let's do this. Military spokesman said the money is hidden under Salih's hospitals meant to fund attacks against Israel. Okay, so this is like the latest thing that the Israeli army is saying, that like there's money. It's like their obsession with hospitals. It's just like in Gaza, where they were saying, Hamas headquarters is underneath this hospital, so that's why we have to blow it up, while there's patients still in there. Now they're saying, all of Hezbollah's money is underneath this hospital, so we have to bomb the ever-loving shit out of it, while there's still patients inside who are being treated for wounds from other bombing sites. And my whole thing is, listen, this is going to sound a little anti-Semitic, but as a Jew, I can sort of say these things. Why would you want to blow up the place with money? Right? Like, just think stereotypically. Why would Jews want to blow up places where the money is at? Wouldn't you just want to go in there and get it? It doesn't make any sense. Now, that may sound a little anti-Semitic, but it also is kind of true. I mean, like, listen. They said they have gold. They say they have cash. Why are you trying to blow it up? Isn't that the reason to, like, go to war with countries, is to, like, steal their resources? Like, that's why we went to Iraq twice. We stole their gold. We stole their oil. And that's why we went to Afghanistan. We sold their opiates, their poppy, any resources that they have. That's why the U.S. goes to war. It's because we don't have traditional colonies. So that's how we extract from the third world. It's through that and ruthless business tactics. But it's usually through war, through the CIA, overthrowing governments, putting U.S. puppet states that'll happily trade with us at the expense of the people. Yeah. Health officials say 2,530 Lebanese people have been killed since Israel ramped up attacks on Hezbollah. And I know what Israel's going to say. They're all Hezbollah terrorists, so they're not considered civilians. Everybody is Hezbollah in Lebanon. Just like how they said in Gaza, everybody's Hamas. So, and they were saying 40,000 Palestinians died. And but that number is way, way more. It's probably in the hundreds of thousands of dead Palestinians. And now they're like, oh, that's being wrapped up. Let's just start bombing Lebanon. They're trying to start a regional war when they haven't even finished their extermination of one area. Hopefully one day it'll stop. I know our government is working tirelessly to make sure that a ceasefire is reached, as they've been saying for the last 10 months or 12 months. Since this conflict has started, they've been saying, we've been working tirelessly. Okay. If you were working tirelessly, then this would have been done. There have been presidents before that have said no to Israel, that have stopped this sort of stuff. Reagan, the last time Israel was in Lebanon, he called them up and said, hey, even after we hadn't sent in troops there, called them up and said, hey, stop, or we're not going to send you money. And they stopped. Actually, no, I think it was another Gazan conflict. Anyways, actually, we have the internet, so I don't have to speculate on why. All right. All right. So if we boom. All right. Here's an article from Axios. History of U.S. presidents drawing red lines with Israel. This is from May 13th. President Biden makes waves last week by threatening to withhold military aid to Israel if they invade Rafah. Hilarious. That was our red line. This conflict has been going on. This is in May. It's been going on for way longer still. But not the first American president to set boundaries regarding assistance to the country. Why it matters. Biden's warning was met with defiance from Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, and yet another sign of the deteriorating relationship between the two leaders. The potential invasion of Rafah was an invasion. And they did it, and government didn't do anything about it. All right. Okay, other presidents who have threatened to withhold aid from Israel. Dwight Eisenhower during the Suez Crisis, the 1950s. Then President Dwight Eisenhower leveraged the threat sanctions to convince Israel to withdraw from the Sinai Peninsula, per the Associated Press. In 1953, the Eisenhower administration also temporarily delayed $26 million in funding to Israel over its construction of a hydroelectric project on the Jordan River. All right. So we can't do this. Ronald Reagan, here it is. Back in 1981, former President Ronald Reagan indefinitely delayed 2 shipments of F-16 fighters jets to Israel over escalating levels in the Middle East. The following year, the Reagan administration warned Congress that Israel might have violated its arms agreement with the U.S. by using American-made weapons during its invasion of Lebanon, the New York Times reported. I wonder what... Wow, it's weird. It's almost like that is happening right now. It is happening right now, and we are doing nothing about it. The same exact thing. In 1983, Reagan reaffirmed that he would not send F-16 jets to Israel until Israel withdraw its forces from Lebanon. While these forces are in a position of occupying another country that now has asked them to leave, we are forbidden by law to release those planes. They're doing the exact same thing now. They are violating our arms agreements, and we are doing nothing about it. In fact, we are sending them more. George H.W. Bush. In 1992, the Bush administration threatened to withhold the delivery of $10 billion in loan guarantees to Israel if it continued building up settlements in the occupied West Bank and Gaza, the Washington Post reported. That was like, they're doing that. They're already selling off the land in Gaza while the people are still there. They're going to turn it all. They're going to, I was going to say bulldoze it, but there's not much left. They're going to take it all, turn it into fucking luxury resorts on the beach for all the fucking Miami guys to move in there. Yeah, and they're gonna open up electric car factories, and they're gonna just to offset all of the fucking death and destruction that they did. Whatever. Okay, so it is possible for us to do this. We just don't want to. Got it. All right. Yeah. So history's repeating itself, and we're just doing nothing about it. We're not even evacuating Lebanese Americans who may be in Lebanon. In fact, I believe a Lebanese American man was killed, along with possibly his family, and we have done nothing about it. A Turkish American was killed in the West Bank. We did nothing about it. Israel can do no wrong, and it's a shame. It's a real shame that we are not protecting American citizens who are living abroad. Meanwhile, there are American citizens serving in the IDF who are violating our nation. You can't serve in a foreign military as a U.S. citizen. That's illegal. Under the Geneva, I believe under the Geneva Convention, that's also illegal because you're considered a mercenary if you're fighting for a foreign force. that's not a volunteer. Like, there are Americans who are fighting in Ukraine under foreign legions, under volunteers. But the guys in Israel are not. It's not the same thing. All right, let's look into early ballots. In a lot of states, early voting has started. So we're going to take a look at what it's like in Arizona because they've already got some results. So this is sort of a good way to tell which way the election is going.
Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us for 12 News at 6. I'm Kariba Devine.
And I'm Troy Hayden in for Mark tonight. Arizona voters were anxious to get their early ballots for this big November election. And now, almost halfway through this early voting period, we are getting some results.
12 News journalist Bram Resnick has more.
Republican voters got new instructions.
Why did you vote early this year?
Honestly, because Donald Trump told me to.
Are Arizona Republicans listening? New data shows they're...
Wow, he's really taking a different stance on this. Almost like he's scared that he might lose. Because originally he was just like, same day voting. You vote on election day with paper ballots, with voter IDs. Now he's changing it up because he's scared he might lose. Or something might happen. Like last time around. And the thing is, he doesn't even want to be president. He just doesn't want to go to jail. And he thinks, kind of rightfully so, because the Supreme Court has said it, that the only way for him not to get prosecuted is to become president. So this is his only chance. And the thing is, the race is really close. Because the Democrats refuse to concede to uncommitted voters. So you have whole blocks of people, large, especially Arab and Muslim voters who would normally vote Democrat, some of which are members of the Democratic establishment, who have said, we are not going to vote for a genocide. And this is their vote, their one issue. Now, it's good that Kamala has come out as pro-choice. That is a very good issue. And there are some people who are specifically voting for Kamala because of her stance on that, which is good. If that is your one issue, that is a perfectly good reason to vote for Kamala. I'm not saying don't vote for Kamala Harris. I'm also not saying don't vote for Trump. Actually, I am. Don't vote for Trump. But I'm also like, listen, I'm not going to tell people how to vote. I'm just saying I can't support a genocide. Which is why I personally won't be voting for her. I'm still voting because there are important issues down the ticket which matter. I happen to live in a deep blue state. My vote for president doesn't really matter. She's going to get my electoral college votes whether or not I vote for her. But if you live in a swing state and your one issue that is deciding whether or not you're going to vote for Kamala or not vote at all is Israel-Palestine, that is a perfectly reasonable dilemma to have. Now, if you end up voting for Kamala, I'm not going to say, oh, you're a traitor. Because ultimately, she is the better of two evils. She is still evil. She's still a cop. She still totes the lies about October 7th. The rapes that didn't occur. There's no evidence that they ever occurred. The only evidence that has ever been said about the rapes was a doctored New York Times article, which the journalist who wrote them wasn't even a journalist. and they couldn't get any sources. So it's completely understandable if you do want to vote for Kamala Harris. And I'm moving my... Come on. Oh, I gotta turn off the gestures. Alrighty. Okay. Alright, we're good. Oh. It's completely understandable if you do not want to vote for her because of the issue of Israel-Palestine. And that is the reason why this election is so close. Because you have a whole group of people who just refuse to budge. And they're right to do so. And she's really dropping the ball because these are a large amount of constituents that would vote for her if she just said, hey, we're aiming towards a ceasefire. Or, in fact, Biden actually got a ceasefire done. If they said, let's get a ceasefire done, let's get those hostages home, he might have actually won. If they do that, their polls shoot up. It's a no-brainer, and they are leaving money on the table. So now they have to try to win without those votes. And that's why this race is so close. All right.
Early voting pace has slowed down from 2020 when they were urged not to vote early. But GOP voters have turned in more ballots than any other voters.
Republicans have realized you can't give the other competitor 28 days, 30 days to vote and leave it all to one day.
According to Uplift Campaigns, early ballot returns statewide show Republican voters have turned in more than 214,000 early ballots. But that is down 7.2% from the same point in 2020. On the Democratic side, more than 179,000 ballots have been returned. That's down a whopping 46% from 2020. And independent voters are also lagging. More than 106,000 ballots returned, off 32% from 4 years ago. So what should we make of these early returns? For one thing, they don't tell us how the election will turn out. Let's turn back the clock to 8 p.m. on election night 2020.
Let's go to Bram Resnick with the first glimpse of how Arizonans have voted.
So a few moments ago, I cautioned you that we might see a blue mirage in the first result. So keep that in mind.
The blue mirage was Democrat Joe Biden's huge 11-point lead over Republican Donald Trump after the first batch of early ballots were counted. Republican voters have been told to shun early voting. Biden did win after all the votes were counted, but by less than half a percentage point.
And a reminder, still 8 days left until October 29th to mail in your early ballot to be sure it's counted. You can also take it to a ballot drop box or walk it in to a vote center. Bram Resnick, 12 News.
Yeah, a lot of ways to get that ballot in, Bram. Thank you.
Early voting.
Okay, that really didn't tell us. That told us what happened last year, but pretty much Trump realizes that, Democrats are being encouraged to vote early, to vote by mail, he's starting to realize that voting on election day is tough. You're not going to get the same voter turnout on election day as if you have early voting. Because if people vote early, they can vote on their time. Not everybody. Election day isn't a federal holiday. People still have to work. And then you have to wait in line. You don't know how long you're going to be waiting in line. In some places, you're waiting a couple hours to be able to vote because of how draconian their voting has been set up. And so it's understandable that these people just like don't, that people should just come in and vote early. So that makes sense why he's, telling people, especially in Arizona, to vote early. All right. This is video, just a continuation of the point made in the previous one.
Set a record this year with more than 1 million people casting their ballot in the first 4 days alone. We're starting to see how many people from each party have decided to cast their ballot early. WRL's Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie joins us now live with which campaign is most concerned about these numbers. Laura?
Right. You know, we are here at the Chavis early voting site in Raleigh, which has been seeing a steady stream of people all day and still is right now. You know, the experts all agree that early voting trends do not predict how an election is going to turn out, right? Whether you vote Tuesday or you vote on election day is still one vote. But there are historical patterns that groups of voters tend to follow. And one key demographic in particular has some Democrats worried. 2020 election, registered Democrats made up nearly half the voters who cast ballots in the first 4 days of early voting. In 2024, Democrats are running about even with Republicans so far and just a little ahead of unaffiliated voters.
We're just not used to seeing that in the early voting numbers. Usually Republicans wait until election day to turn out. It's not true in 2024.
Western Carolina political scientist Chris Cooper says that might be due to a new messaging strategy by GOP groups that seems to be working.
The Republican Party at the state level and nationally has engaged in this movement they call bank your vote, right? So the idea is go ahead and use the early voting methods that are available to you. Their message is it will save the party money. You'll get fewer advertisements on your phone. You'll get fewer mailers in your mailbox.
But it's also because some Democrats aren't turning out. Political strategist Thomas Mills says black voter turnout is down sharply from 2020, especially in rural parts of the state where black voters tend to be more socially conservative.
I think there's been a lot of messaging from the Trump campaign meant to suppress the black vote around all these ads about the government providing transgender services.
Cooper and Mills agree. Early voting does not predict how the election will turn out, and trends can turn around pretty quickly. But they both say Democrats should be paying attention because black voters are a critical part of their base.
If I were the Democrats, I would be looking at those numbers now and trying to do something. I mean, first thing is to figure out what it is. And if it's a messaging problem, you need to have a response.
So I asked the Democrats today what, if anything, they're planning to do differently looking at these numbers. They didn't directly respond to me, but in a statement, Harris campaign spokeswoman Dory McMillan referred us to comments Harris made today in Michigan about early voting turnout in general, saying, I think it's great that people are turning out and voting and being active. It's what we should all want right in our democracy. Laura Leslie, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
Well, another big story today, early voting getting underway in Georgia. Voters turned out in record numbers, and the polls are still open today. Some reported standing in line for more than an hour to cast their ballot. Fox 5's Deidre Dukes is live at a polling location.
Yeah, and this was early voting. This is early voting. People are already waiting in line. So imagine what it's going to be like on election day. That's why the Republicans are like, maybe you should come in early. Because otherwise you might not vote at all. It's almost like maybe if we made voting, I don't know, a federal holiday. Like they do in Australia, where they have compulsory voting. So you have to vote on election day. I don't know. Just an idea. Maybe we should do it here.
In Buckhead with the latest, Deidre.
That's right, Christine, and this was one of those locations where folks did see us long wait at certain times. Actually, this is the shortest line we've seen here this afternoon. This line actually stretched out into the parking lot at times today. Now, at around 2:30 this afternoon, state officials reported that some 200,000 Georgia voters had cast their ballots.
I expected to see people out here. I'm not sure I expected a line this long.
Voters waited patiently in long lines to cast their ballots outside the Buckhead Library as early voting got underway.
I wanted to get it out of the way. Didn't want to have to wait for Election Day.
While several polling locations reported little or no wait when polls opened, turnout was heavy Tuesday morning.
I feel like this is probably the most important election of my lifetime, of our lifetimes collectively.
Georgia was on track for a record-breaking.
I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree. This one is pretty important. They say every time, oh, it's for democracy. We have to preserve democracy. If the Republicans win, we're not going to have a democracy. If the Democrats win, we're not going to have a democracy. I feel like this happens every time. Now, again, with Trump, all bets are off. We have no idea. He said he's going to be a dictator day one. That may be true. That may not be true. It's just, we'll just have to see. We will just have to see.
Day.
At 10:29 a.m. this morning, we already had 71,054 people vote early today.
Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger praised state and local officials for ensuring Hurricane Helene didn't impact the election.
We put our heads down, we did our job, and that's what people expect of us.
Raffensperger
That was the guy who Trump was like, hey, I need you to find me some votes. And he was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Trump was like, you're going to find me some votes. And he's like, no, I'm just going to count them as they come in. And now they're suing Trump for voter interference.
Till the extensive steps taken to ensure election integrity.
Everything that we have done in the last 6 years has been for the voters, so they have results that they can trust.
Even as state officials work to move past Georgia's 2020 presidential election and false allegations of voter fraud.
We test the machines beforehand, we test during, and we have audits afterwards. After all those things, then we have a new audit tool. We feel like we've done everything we can to be transparent and show the people, no matter who wins, as the Secretary often says, that's up to the voters. We're here just to report the final results.
Now, state elections officials also used this opportunity during this morning's news conference to update us on some absentee ballot facts and statistics. They said that they have received so far just over 250,000 requests for absentee ballots so far, and those ballots started going out last week. And similar to the 2020 election, officials do expect that around 6% of voters will be voting absentee this year. That's the latest here in Buckhead. Deidre Dukes, Fox 5 News.
All right, Deidre. Major to see so many people coming out just on day one. Here are some other important election dates to keep in mind. The last day to request an absentee ballot is October 25th. That's next Friday. There will be mandatory Saturday voting this Saturday and next Saturday. The last day of early voting is November 1st, and Election Day is November 5th.
It's nice that they're having Saturday voting. That's vital, because you get people who can normally come out on Super Tuesday. I believe it's the first Tuesday in November. Yep. Yeah. So, all right. Now let's get into some fun stuff. So Trump shut down a McDonald's so he could work there. This is also a McDonald's that had been boycotted or protest because they were underpaying their employees or paying them the federal minimum wage, when McDonald's has been advertising that they've been paying more.
The liberal media is melting down over former President Trump's appearance at a McDonald's location in Pennsylvania. Former president swapped his suit jacket for an apron and started to work at the fry station.
Hello, everybody. Sir. My first day at McDonald's. I'm looking for a job.
Hello, President Trump. I'm Derek Giacomontoni. I'm the owner.
Oh, well, that's a good owner. Must be a wealthy guy, huh? Thank you very much. Well, I'm looking for a job, and I've always wanted to work at McDonald's, but I never did.
This is in there. She has an apron for you.
Oh.
Dude, he's so good. He's just like, he's very good at schmoozing. It's just like going up to the owner and being like, "Oh, you must be very wealthy." He's good with people. He is, when they serve him, that like any narcissist, really. He's good. He's friendly. He's charismatic. As long as you do what he says and are in awe of this man.
Good job on your first day.
I think I should take
President Trump.
Should I take off my jacket? I think so. The press wants to see this. How are you? He's a wealthy guy. He owns a lot of McDonald's. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay.
Meanwhile, that poor woman is making $7.25 an hour. I don't think she got paid extra for this. Maybe. Meanwhile, that owner, who owns multiple McDonald's restaurants, is making so much passive income. Let's see. Just gonna look up. How much does a McDonald's franchisor make? Based on provided search results, average annual gross sales, $3.8 million. Estimated earnings per year, $46,000, assuming owner operation in location. So, average annual income for McDonald's franchise owners, $150,000 to $250,000, depending on location and efficiency. That's probably per location. So this guy's probably making, depending on how many he owns, he's probably making a good $500,000 plus a year, and that's passive income. Now, he's had to invest into these locations, but the nice thing about McDonald's franchises is you make your money back fast. There might be a lot of startup costs, and the McDonald's Corporation takes a percentage, but you can make a lot of money.
Well, Trump got the job, and here he is handing out orders to excited customers.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Look at all the fake news over there. Hello, everybody.
You can fake this, right?
And you know this is compliments of Trump, okay?
Yes, thank you. Mr. President, please don't let the United States become Brazil, my native Brazil.
We'll keep it good.
Please.
We're going to make it better than ever, okay?
Please, no. We don't want universal basic income. No, we don't want to be lifted out of poverty. Please. Bolsonaro was great. There's totally no reason why he left the country after he lost the election and has been living in a Florida hospital. No, please. No, there's no reason he's been living in a UFC fighter's race car bed after losing an election. Absolutely no reason.
Thank you, Mr. President. You made it possible for ordinary people like us to meet you.
You're not ordinary.
I mean, thank you so much for everything you're doing.
I can see.
We pray for you, and you are the type of person we want to be the president. Thank you so much.
And he found time to do his...
I mean, Listen, I don't know whether or not this PR stunt was good or not. I mean, it does play well with the media. It does make him look, oh, look, he's interacting with normal people. I don't know. I'm feeling that, well, since McDonald's is on the BDS list, you're not going to get a lot of protesters. You might get some Kamala supporters who go there, but I mean, I don't know.
His other job of running for president by talking about his opponent, Kamala Harris.
I love McDonald's. I love jobs. I like to see good jobs. And I think it's inappropriate when somebody puts down all over the place that she worked at McDonald's. It was a big part of her resume that she worked at McDonald's, how tough a job it was. She specifically worked at the French fry, where they make the French fries, and she talked about the heat. It was so tough. She never worked at McDonald's. McDonald's just confirmed that again, by the way. She never worked at McDonald's. In other words, she's lying Kamala.
Now, McDonald's said they don't have records going back to the 80s. They put out this long statement where they seem kind of enthusiastic to have Trump there. They also welcomed Kamala to come. But Carly, I saw these videos, and I thought, this is some of the best retail politics, if not the best I've ever seen in my entire political lifetime. But the press, here is what they said. They see.
Okay, so I have this Newsweek article where they asked her specifically, did you work at McDonald's? Harris was asked Monday, Madam Vice President, did you work at a McDonald's? She responded, did I? I did. Harris has recalled working at McDonald's that her campaign has identified as a location on Central Avenue in Alameda, California, 41 years ago. In the summer of 1983, when she would have been a rising sophomore at Howard University. Asked repeatedly by Newsweek for more details, the campaign has not responded. McDonald's corporate office has also not responded to repeat requests for more information, though the company made its first reference to such requests in an internal statement Sunday, saying, in part, we and our franchisees don't have records of all positions dating back to the early 80s. A friend of Harris, Wanda Kagan, told the New York Times that she recalled Harris having worked at McDonald's around that time. That recollection was based off what Harris's mother, who died in 2009, told her years ago, the Times reported. Harris first mentioned the summer job publicly 5 years ago during a brief run in the Democratic presidential primary. So, again, if she did, it was for a summer. I've had plenty of summer jobs, which I can't actually say that I tell you that I remember all of them, let alone ones I worked 40 years ago. So maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. But he's turning it into a political stunt.
See it totally different. French cuffs and French fries at Donald Trump's McDonald's gig. Rolling Stone, Trump makes fries at McDonald's, bizarre attempt. Washington Post, you see this. Stage managed campaign stop. Well, yeah, it's stage managed because Iran has him on a hit list and have to protect the guy. This was objectively incredible.
Yeah, it's like we are 15 days until the presidential election, so everything Donald Trump does is going to be a level 10 controversy by some members of the media. And if I could just read a little bit from New York Magazine, because I laughed at how they characterized this stop as well. They said, so in an effort to highlight his claim that Kamala Harris never worked at McDonald's, Trump pretended to work at a closed McDonald's where he served pretend orders to supporters pretending to be customers. Hopefully the fries weren't cold, they said. So, like, this was I wouldn't even call it a standard campaign stop. I do think that it was creative, but
Okay, but it was catered. Like, they shut the restaurant down, brought in a couple key employees. Sure, maybe it was working, and maybe it was to say, maybe those were selected customers who would just come through. They knew President Trump was working there. And so they're just like, oh, we're just going to do orders of fries if you come through the drive-thru. Because, like, there would be security there. There would be media there. So people would know something is up. And they probably know that it was a presidential candidate. You would have Social Security, Secret Service, etc. All right.
It's retail politics. It's been going on for generations. And they're trying to make it seem like he's tricking voters into thinking something that it wasn't. And, you know, I think that just because you don't like a candidate doesn't mean that everything they do is bad. And I think a good example of that actually happened at the Univision Town Hall when both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris were asked to name 3 things that are good about the other person. And they were both able to come up with something. So maybe we can use them as examples that not everything is terrible.
Yeah, Kamala could only name 1, and Trump rattled off 3 things he liked about Kamala. It was pretty endearing. Yeah. Kamala Harris tried her creativity over the weekend by rolling out the surrogates. Let's watch.
This is how a bad saves democracy. You couldn't even spell democracy.
Oh. God, I don't even know what Fox News is going to say. But this is cringe. God, this is like Hillary Clinton Pokemon Go to the polls level cringe.
So that was Lizzo Harris. She campaigned over the weekend for Kamala. I mean, we'll leave it to viewers who is more effective.
Look, I'm not mad at that white suit. That looked good, Lizzo. It looks pretty. Look, they're going to do everything they can. It's closing arguments time. And that's, again, why, and you brought up a good point, Carly, why both of them could be doing all these things. I mean, Kamala could have gone to McDonald's before he got there. Yeah.
Right?
She could have done that. She could have told more detailed, rich, and enhanced memories of her time there. I learned from my aunt and uncle and working at their franchise 7-Eleven how to be a good coworker, how to be that person who appreciates the viewer, now customer, of what we do. And I was really young, like really young. But my dad lectured me about what taxes would look like out of the paycheck. I mean, no, I'm too old now to have like all of that, and both my parents are gone. And she's about the same age I am. But we don't forget those early moments. Why not share that? Or go make some new ones. Yeah. Like, I mean, I volunteer.
Yeah, I mean, she does have a point. She really wanted to hit the nail on the head. She could have done exactly what Trump is doing right now. I can't believe I'm agreeing with Fox News, but yeah, no, that Lizzo thing was fucking cringe. Oh God. I mean, I hate both of them. I hate both these parties, but like, this is what Democrats do. And they're literally just relying on their celebrity endorsements and Barack Obama. Like, those are the 2 things that they think are gonna get them over the edge. And, I mean, it's definitely possible that they could win. But it's very close. And we all know why.
If 7-Eleven calls me, I can make a Slurpee. Yep. I mean, I'm happy to do it. I'm not running for anything, though. She is. So he took all of the chicken nuggets off her plate when he made it to McDonald's first. But her campaign, that's what I was saying earlier. Why didn't her campaign just jump on the Getty Up and go do it?
It's a great point. You know, I remember working at Hollister in high school and having asked customers, have you heard how great our jeans fit? It was pretty lame in hindsight. But,
no, that's good. I like Hollister.
Kaylee, you know, this love of Donald Trump for McDonald's, it is not stagecraft. It is indeed real. I've witnessed it. And I want to walk down memory lane. This is Donald Trump with grimace.
I don't know how you do it. I really don't. I've put together some really impressive deals. But this thing you've pulled off, it's amazing. A big and tasty for just $1? How do you do it? What's your secret? You're a man of few words. I like that.
He also brought fast food for the Clemson.
Okay, that was good. That was really good. Oh my God. I was like peak Trump when he was just a media personality, not like an unhinged political figure and cult leader. God, I miss that time. He also, when he did like Papa Gino's commercials, his appearance in Home Alone 2. Oh my God, all right, we're just gonna let's just do yeah, here's his Pizza Hut commercial.
Do you really think this is the right thing for us to be doing, Ivana?
What will people think?
Let them talk.
Oh, that's the wife that he buried in Mar-a-Lago in a semi-unmarked grave.
Ivana. It's wrong, isn't it?
But it feels so right.
Then it's a deal?
Yes, we eat our pizza the wrong way.
Crust first.
Introducing stuffed crust pizza from Pizza Hut. With a ring of cheese baked into a totally new, thinner crust, you'll want to eat it the wrong way. Crust first.
May I have the last slice?
Actually, you're only entitled to half.
Large, just $9.99.
Oh my God, this is so great. Yep, and then the Grimace one, classic.
Man, this 555 deal is really popular. Mr. Trump, here you go. 3 medium pizzas, $5 each.
Tell you what, I'll counter that offer with an even better one. Here's the deal. You give me those 3 pizzas, only I'll give you just $5 apiece.
Sure. Okay.
Still got it, Donald. Still got it.
Like that's objectively funny. What happened to him? Because it seems like he got that humor. Maybe he was reading it quite literally. Because when they talk about him on SNL, they say he just doesn't get humor. But that's like an objectively funny joke. It's self-deprecating. What happened to him? I don't know. That was funny. All right, Fox News, you got me. You're not news. You're an entertainment service, but that was entertaining.
The White House. We'll put up that image, Kaylee.
The reason why this campaign event
Classic Trump
was so successful is, yes, it's trolling at Kamala Harris a little bit, but think about what Trump did here. He has proved that there is dignity in all labor, that all workers are important no matter where you work. And I actually think this is part of the reason why no one can verify whether Kamala Harris actually did work at McDonald's, why she didn't include it on her resume, because maybe she was embarrassed or ashamed of the fact that she worked at a McDonald's.
I pray that's not right.
And what is Trump doing here? He is proving to the American people that it does not matter what you do, does not matter what.
Okay. I'm just going to counter their point. Because it was a summer job when you were in college that she did for a summer. It wasn't. What was her degree in? It's not like it was an internship. I assume something in politics, like political science or pre-law. Yeah, she graduated from Howard University. Yeah, it's not like it was like a law internship or something. It was a summer job because she needed some money. Like, I'm not going to include every summer job I've had during college. Even if I were running for office. I'm not going to be like, this was important to me. It was like a summer gig. Like I say, and a lot of people emulate this, you should work retail or food service at least for a year, because it really humbles you. I would say fast food included. Like, these people work hard. In California, they earn $20 an hour, and I think that's good. They deserve to be paid that much. If you work here, if you work at any fast food location, you work at food service, you work in any of these, if you work in retail, you deserve to be paid as much as you possibly can. All right. I worked retail. It sucked. It teaches you humility. Between the managers and the customers were just the worst. Sometimes customers are just awful. Working in a customer service related job really teaches you stuff about people. Like, there are some people who are great. Some people who are all right. They want their thing and then they get out. And then there are just people. Sometimes it's people who just need a little hand holding, and that's fine. Part of the job. That's all good. But then there are people who are just adamant and arrogant. It's really just I make you want to just punch them. But you can't, because you'll get fired and possibly arrested. If you work in retail, if you work in customer service in any kind, I think you should legally be allowed to assault a customer. As long as it's justified. If you can justify it with evidence, I think you should be able to get away with it scot-free. Now, I'm not condoning violence, but I am saying that maybe sometimes it's because there are just people who you just need to knock them right in the teeth or yell at them. I think you should be allowed to yell at customers. Customer is not always right. And I'll just tell you right now, customer is not always right. All right, let's keep going.
Whether you're lower class, middle class, or upper class, every single job has value. And that makes me think of my mother-in-law, who has worked at an auto factory since she was 16. Or my mom, whose job at McDonald's was actually her very first job ever. It's such an important message, and I think that's why it's appealing to so many voters.
Jason, and then he went to the studio.
It's so rich coming from them because they're anti-union. It's so funny coming from them where they're like, all work is valuable. Except for sex work. That's immoral. Right? Except for unions. You don't need to unionize. Your boss is a good guy. He'll treat you right. If you unionize, you're betraying your boss. So I just find that insanely rich.
Steelers game where there were chants of USA.
Hey, this is the happiest Happy Meal I've ever seen, because not only did you get the media meltdown, but we're talking about McDonald's. Nobody likes McDonald's more than I do, except probably President Trump, because I tell you, 2 old beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, on a sesame seed bun. It's going to happen in about 15 minutes when we're...
All right. I think we get the point here. All right, let's talk about tariffs.
Before we get into tariffs,
the heart of the Donald Trump economic plan,
we should talk about the chicken war.
The chicken war is a clucking good story.
In post-World War II West Germany, people started eating a lot of chicken, specifically American chicken. Midway through 1962, U.S. farmers were on track to sell more than $50 million worth, $500 million in today's money. This made European farmers mad, so the organization that later became the European Union put a tariff on chicken. A 5-pound chicken that started as $1.60 became $2.25. Imports quickly dropped. U.S. chicken farmers and politicians were furious.
And we thought Germany's our big market for chicken, and so if we hurt the Germans, maybe we'll get them to change their mind on chicken.
So the U.S. put a 25% tariff on trucks, like Germany's Volkswagen.
So I wanted to actually cover this in a different segment. Talking about American reliance on vehicles. But this is actually a perfectly good video that teaches about this sort of subject. Let me see. I wrote it down. Yeah, I wanted to do it on a car dependent, but this also works well for explaining tariffs.
Volkswagen. And it worked. Their truck sales in the U.S. fell by half, and they never really recovered. Meanwhile, Germans paid more for their chicken, and Americans had fewer truck options. It's kind of a perfect example of what tariffs do: hurt consumers while protecting very specific industries, or attempt to get countries to change their behavior. While they haven't been a large part of trade policy in decades, former President Donald Trump wants to change that.
Some might say it's economic nationalism. I call it common sense. I call it America first.
President Trump has really sort of brought a lot of people out to think that tariffs might be something that's useful in America's economic arsenal in a way that hasn't been used in the past.
Here's how tariffs work and what Trump's proposals would do. Let's start in 2018, when President Trump put tariffs on
Washing machines. We're going to benefit our consumers, and we're going to create a lot of jobs.
Since then, whenever a washing machine is imported to the U.S., the company on the U.S. side doing the importing pays a tariff to the U.S. government.
Their margins are pretty low. They've got to pass that price on to consumers who ultimately pay it.
Yep. So it just makes stuff more expensive. Because the reason why you put a tariff is so that somebody would be more incentivized to buy a nationally made product versus an imported product. The thing is, Americans don't make things anymore. Sure, we make cars. We have specific industries in which we do make stuff. But even the cars that we make, a lot of those parts are imported. And so there's tariffs involved with those. So you see, because we are a global economy. It's not just the US. The thing is, it's possible if we went into an isolationist state where we said no more foreign trade. It's possible that we could survive. But that's not realistic. We are a global economy. We rely heavily on Chinese-made products because they can make them cheaper. Because of labor laws. We need the global south. We need to exploit the global south in order to get cheap goods. And those goods are cheap enough where when they're imported, even with a tariff, it's still cheaper than an American-made product. So we're always going to choose those, which is why tariffs make no sense. Because we are a global economy. And then with a tariff, it's the company that's importing that has to pay to the government costs. And then they're just going to pass that on to you. So your iPhone, which costs $1,000, you put a tariff on it because it's all made in China and then imported. They put a 10% tariff on it. Now it's $1,100. Now, some people may be willing to pay that price, but for most consumers, that's just not viable.
It's the whole point, in some sense, to reduce demand for those goods and create space for domestic producers.
After the tariffs, not only did the price of imported washing machines go up, so did the ones made in the U.S.
Yeah, see, so tariffs are not going to work because they see, American manufacturers see that foreign products are going up and they're like, wait a minute, we can just raise our prices too. They'll pay them anyways. So regardless of whether or not you buy an imported good or you buy a national good, you're still paying the same price. And then the national products just make more profit. Because that's capitalism, baby. It's all about profits. Which is why when we had the inflation scare, and then inflation started going down, but the prices were still up. And in fact, in grocery stores, prices were still up and the goods were being shrunk. Something that was 24 ounces was now 23.5 ounces. Still the same price as it was when inflation was up. Because they realize they'll still pay. They need this. The consumer will still be willing to pay the price. Right? It's infuriating. It's infuriating.
There's this myth out there that if we tax imports, domestic producers won't change their prices. And that's not the case. You're creating more demand for them.
So naturally, the price goes up. And it wasn't just washers. Dryers went up in price too, even though they weren't part of the tariffs.
Usually it's the case, if you buy a washer, you buy a dryer. So even though dryers weren't directly affected by the tariff, they were indirectly affected by the shift in demand.
Now, it wasn't all bad. These tariffs did
create a lot of jobs.
It's so interesting that Trump does not get tariffs, despite the fact that he went to an Ivy League economic school. He went to the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, which is an Ivy League school economic program. It is one of the best schools in America in terms of business and economics, and this man does not get how tariffs work. Or he's being purposely obtuse. I think he's just stupid.
1,800, mostly from those foreign companies like Samsung and LG opening plants in the U.S. And a study found the U.S. collected $82 million annually. But because of those price increases, it cost consumers $1.5 billion more. So they basically paid $815,000 per job.
This is a very expensive job creation program. And so that's another reason why economists don't like tariffs. They're much more cost-effective, more efficient ways of increasing employment in those industries.
These weren't the only tariffs Trump created in 2018. The big ones were on
steel and aluminum.
Those were really designed to punish China for its transgressions of international trade rules.
Also for national security. They're used to make a lot of military equipment, but also everyday things like cars.
All the industries that...
Yep. Just as I was saying. Because we're such a globalized economy, we rely on other countries for parts to build in our nationalized industries, like the auto industry. Steel, aluminum, components, chips, microchips, which are many of them are made in Taiwan, are all subject to imports, are all subject to tariffs.
Use steel and have to pay the higher price. That squeezes their profit margins, and it also puts them at a competitive disadvantage against foreign producers of those same goods who don't have to pay those inflated costs for their inputs. And so a lot of studies have shown that you lose jobs, as many if not more jobs in those downstream industries as you gain in the upstream industries that are being protected by the tariffs.
Many studies on the 2018 tariffs found some pros, some cons. Manufacturing jobs, which were on the decline, didn't increase, but they did level out. The overall economy lost jobs, mostly in those downstream industries, and the costs of the tariffs were passed on to U.S. companies and consumers. So, not great for the economy, but it did motivate U.S. companies to move out of China and made supply chains more resilient. But it didn't change much of China's behavior, and in many ways, they became more aggressive. But here's...
Which is hilarious to say about China, because China is being more aggressive in terms of they're upping their trade. They're trying to be more competitive. when the U.S. gets aggressive, they use military power. China doesn't do that. They may do show of force, but they find it's better to cooperate. They find it's better to trade. Because if you make friends, it's better to make friends because you'll continually get trade rather than we're going to screw you over for short-term profits. They're looking at things like, sure, we may not make as much in the short term, but we're looking at long-term investments. And those are going to pan out. Whereas in America, we're more like, how can I make a quick buck right now? How can I get insane Q1 profits? I'm not so much worried about Q1 next year or Q4. How can I make money right now?
Here's the thing. Even with all the economic downsides, a review by the Biden administration suggested Trump's tariffs should remain, and the administration should add or increase them, which they did.
Once tariffs get in place, there are two factors that sort of keep them in place for some time. First of all, there are going to be domestic interest groups that have a stake in seeing those tariffs maintained because they like the extra market share that they've gained as a result of those tariffs. And second of all, tariffs are a bargaining chip. So why would we sort of unilaterally get rid of these, even if there's some economic benefits, when we might use it in some negotiations down the road?
Tariffs are really hard to remove. It's why, 60 years later, there's still a 25% tariff on trucks, even though U.S. chicken farmers no longer care about selling in Europe.
So we're still living with the legacy of the chicken war. So that's sort of another lesson of history, is you have to be careful about imposing these tariffs because you think you're doing it for short-term strategic reasons or you're just helping out this industry temporarily, but they can last for decade upon decade upon decade.
Tariff policy is kind of old. Even
Yeah. The most effective way to get tax income is through not through tariffs. It's through income tax. That's why we have an income tax, because it is such a money maker. It brings in so much money. Now, all we have to do is increase taxes on the wealthy. Make a higher tax bracket. The capital gains tax, perfect. It targets the ultra wealthy who should be paying taxes. If you do that, then you'll make way more than you would with tariffs, and you don't have the sort of negative consequences of it like you do when you implement tariffs.
by the chicken war, they were only imposed on around 7% of U.S. imports. Trump's plan for a second term is to bring them back dramatically.
This is the policy that built this country, and this is the policy that will save our country.
He's proposing a 60% tariff on everything from China, and a 10 or even 20% on every import.
That's insane. All of our Temu stuff's going to get way more expensive. Ugh. How am I supposed to buy cheap crap now? It's all going to be the same expensive crap that I can buy here. Ugh.
Import from every other country.
Countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world.
Multiple independent studies.
What? What? What are you talking about? He's like, they're going to finally pay us back. Homie, we're multi-trillion dollars in debt. Now, money's made up. And the government always seems to find money. So we don't really worry about our debt. It's a number. It's a number that can honestly just vanish. Who's going to call in their debts? China? You think China's going to come invade the U.S. over debts that we owe them? I don't think so. No. That's the thing. The government has the ability to wipe away debt. They could have gotten rid of all the student loan debt. They didn't, but they can. That's something that they can do. The government could say tomorrow, Biden could even say tomorrow, you could sign an executive order being like, we're waiving all student loan debts. Congratulations, the government is now paying all this off. No more student loans. College is free. For everyone. It's something that can be done, and it has been done elsewhere in the world. Healthcare, all through the government. The government picks up the bill. Why? Because it's way easier to deal with one entity rather than dealing with hospitals, insurance companies. You have all of these middlemen who need to take a little bit. That's why healthcare in America is so expensive, because everybody needs to make a profit. Everybody needs a little bit. You have the manufacturers of these instruments. You have the medication. You have the pharmaceutical companies. You have insurance companies. You have the hospitals themselves, which are for profit, which is outrageous. I don't think if you're in the healthcare industry, you should be trying to profit off of people's misery. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe a hospital shouldn't be allowed to make a profit. Your job is to make people well. Your job is to make sick people well again. That is the objective. That is the objective of a hospital, of being in the healthcare industry. Instead, they become a service, just like anything else. You go there, you get a service, and then you get a bill for it. An exorbitant bill. Oh, you got some Tylenol while you were sitting in the bed? That's $200 a pop. It's less expensive to stay at a hotel than it is to stay overnight at a hospital. It is cheaper to fly to another country, like Spain, somewhere in Europe, get treatment there, fly back, have accommodations, fly back, than it is to get the same procedure done in an American hospital. Just think about that. Just how outrageous that is. Anyways, that's a different story.
Looked at the possible effects. One found it would cost the average American household $1,700 from higher prices. Another found it could cost more than 684,000 jobs. And they don't factor in how domestic goods might get more expensive, or retaliatory tariffs from other countries.
They're not going to take this lying down. They're not going to change their behavior in some way to appease the administration that imposes such tariffs. They're going to retaliate. So not only will U.S. imports shrink, but U.S. exports will shrink as well.
Trump wants to use these tariffs as a revenue stream for the U.S. to pay for tax cuts.
As tariffs on foreign countries go up, taxes on American workers and families come down.
Okay, that's nice. If they have jobs, it's cool when you get a tax cut, but you have to have a job in order to get a tax cut for your job. And if you impose high tariffs, you're going to get rid of jobs. And then people won't be able to enjoy said tax cuts. I also do not believe in tax cuts. I believe in effective taxing. Our taxes should go towards helping society. people's problem with taxes are they don't like paying high taxes because they're not getting services. Like, I would not mind paying 70+% of my income to the government if I got healthcare, college, maternity and maternity care. Our roads were taking infrastructure, high-speed rail, education system that was good, free school lunch for kids, free housing for people who need it. If we got all of these services for drug addicts, like safe shooting sites, needle exchange programs, all of these things which are being done in other countries that have high tax rates, they're actually getting what they're paying for. Universal basic income, too, where you get paid for all your living expenses, and so whatever else you're making is just on top of that. In Norway, you can be an artist, have your rent paid, and just make art on the side. If you want to, paint, that's cool. The government will pay your rent, will pay your bills, make sure that you got food on the table, make sure that your family is taken care of, so that you're free to pursue whatever interests you want. See, in America, in order to do that, you can't have a hobby in America anymore. If you have a hobby, if you have something that you enjoy, but want to do it full time, you have to become an entrepreneur. You have to work at it. It's just like, I want to play D&D. That's all I want to do is play D&D. Okay. Well, you got to set all this stuff up. You got to make sure you're posting. You have to make sure you have all your social media ready. You want to be a streamer? You just want to talk in front of a camera all day? Guess what? You have to go through all these hoops, right? You have to make sure that you're making enough money. And because now that you're self-employed, you're paying extra in taxes anyways. Because our tax system is so convoluted that they have to make waifu dating simulators in order for you to get how the tax system works. When we could just be getting this all by just paying more in taxes and having them be effectively used instead of all of our money, instead of 60+% of the taxes I pay go towards the military, goes towards funding the genocide in Gaza. Instead of our education programs, instead of our crumbling infrastructure, instead of our health care.
Studies found his proposal would likely bring in around $250 billion per year, about 5% of what the federal government currently brings in with taxes. So if tariffs are harmful, always harmful even to the economy, why is Trump so focused on them? In the last 20 years, China has gotten aggressive, investing in manufacturing to become the world's largest exporter. Even today, they invest more than any other country. It has let them export things like steel and aluminum at below market values. That, coupled with numerous trade rule violations,
allowed President Trump to really restart the whole discussion about using tariffs to achieve certain objectives, such as punishing other countries, and the Biden administration has just continued that. So the whole environment has really changed from 20 years ago, when trade policy was pretty quiet business, and now we're talking about industrial policy, tariffs, subsidies, and all these different interventions because the whole global and geopolitical environment has changed quite dramatically.
and it would change even more dramatically with Trump's proposed tariff plan. In the short run, we know the economy will suffer. In the long run, no one really knows. Will it be a war between the US and the rest of the world, or the Western world against China? Trump wants to play a game of chicken to find out.
Is Tim Pool actually ending his podcast?
Okay. Now we're going to get into more of the streamer YouTube debacle drama stuff. Oh my God. All right. So here we have alleged Russian agent Tim Pool is retiring, as well as some other, Ben Shapiro went to UCLA because all he can do is debate college kids because those are his intellectual equals.
I don't think this is real. There's no way. When I see something that's too good to be true, I don't immediately believe it. You guys know this. This is my policy, okay? This is one of those things that seems too good to be fucking true. Ending like Alex Jones threatened to multiple times. No, I know this isn't real Tim Pool. This is a obvious like Tim Pool tracker account, chat. I also have seen like him talk about how this might be my last show if you even cared. That is definitely a thing. The numbers fall off that hard, or is it just because he's not getting the Russia money? I think Tim Pool's numbers have been fine. There has been something that I have noticed, however. I think TikTok has basically gutted like political commentary on YouTube and everywhere else. Like, I'm one of the only places, like this stream, this broadcast, one of the very few places that has like remained consistently, had like consistently high numbers. But even in an election cycle, this should be probably even higher. But because like TikTok has like diversified the style of commentary and packaged it in like a super fast paced format, like I never hear about Ben Shapiro any longer. Do you guys ever hear about Ben Shapiro? I don't ever hear about Benny Boy at all. Like last night was the first time I saw Benny Boy because he went to UCLA and he was like, I love the IDF. I like everything that they do. And it's like there has been a genuine fall off with Steven Crowder, which we know he had a big fall off. He his entire life up. He just said no to like $50 million from Daily Wire and was like, that's slave wages. And then it came out that he was a ginormous piece of shit. Well, I guess everybody already knew he was a ginormous piece of shit, but it like further came out. I don't know. It's just like, I rarely ever hear about these guys any longer. And I feel like they used to be so dominant. And I will say that like on my end, I mean, the activity is also bad too. Like it's not like my shit pops off either. Like my shit has definitely gotten stale as well. Like at this stage, I think we would probably have like 300K every single video on a day-to-day basis. But like there's videos that get 138K. And it's mostly just like drama related stuff that people pay attention to. I think that maybe people just don't give a shit. Like look at this. Look at the stuff that hits. Trump dances on stage for 39 minutes. Like that's an utterly irrelevant part. Is Kamala Harris' strategy all wrong? 116K views. It's mostly like people in my audience in general, I think don't want to hear me can criticize Democrats at all. They just like are bored about it. They just want to hear drama, and that's it. If you are curious, parents around here used to complain about stuff their kids saw that was hardcore conservative. This year, nope. Just TikTok and super conservosphere does not have a hold here. Their kids see more pro-left stuff than ever before, and they see politics. Yeah, I think, like I said, I think TikTok is definitely slowly but surely taking over that space. And I think that there's like a lot more content creators out there that are like young, that are facing a younger audience. And that's pretty much it. And I think like that's probably happening for the right wing as well, because I think it's probably happening for liberals for sure. Could it also be that the audience outside of the U.S. is tired of election news? I don't know, maybe. But yeah, I think that overall, like with the exception of like peak moments where a lot of people tune in, the media cycle is so much faster now. Like people just.
Yeah, he's right there. I didn't realize he wasn't actually going to talk about Tim Pool here that much. It was just to begin in. But yeah, there's stuff happening all the time. So it's just like, if you're not doing this every day, if you're not constantly popping out content, it's just not relevant. It just gets stale. And I think this whole streamer social media thing is a bubble that's going to burst eventually. There used to be money in this. There used to be, I don't know, maybe it's oversaturation or just like the fact that these are like private now the appeal of YouTube, the appeal of Twitch, the appeal of all of these sites was sort of the democratization of the media that you consume. Instead of having to, get a cable subscription in order to watch certain content. So, instead of CNN or, these big affiliates which require so much infrastructure and investment, any Joe Schmo could get a camera and a mic and just start talking about the stuff that interests them, which is cool. I really think that is a great thing. It gives voices to people who were otherwise voiceless. Like you have somebody like Hassan Piker who's actually giving leftist spaces a voice, which is something that has been, at least in America, has always been flattened. We don't like communists here. It's illegal to be a communist in America. So, for once, we actually have a voice who's speaking on leftist ideas and is allowed to speak. And it's pretty popular. One of the most popular streamers on Twitch is Hassan. And because of him, a lot of people have been able to run for political office. You're seeing a lot more leftists organize in their workplace. You're seeing a lot more get positions of power. And I think that's a really good thing, because we're moving further and further right. The Democratic Party is center right now. The Republicans are far right. They're fascists. Now we're stuck with a two-party system in which you're getting 100% Hitler or 80% Hitler. So it's nice to have other options, because our two-party system is broken. That's what happens when you only have two options.
Can cycle in and out. People are like, oh, Trump got shot. Boom. Everyone pays attention. Right. A day later, everyone's like, did Trump even get shot? He might as well not have been shot at all. You know what I mean? Like, they forget about it. So it is what it is. That probably plays a role in it. But all right. Time to change things.
I think I'm just gonna skip this and go on to the Philly D, who's gonna talk about the Ethan Klein, Hassan Piker Twitch drama.
Sup, you beautiful bastards. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show, your daily dive into the news. We have a lot to talk about on today's extra large show. But first, we got to talk about this Twitch dumpster fire, because there are actually several different news stories happening here, though kind of at the center of it, you have Ethan Klein, Hassan Piker, and a creator by the name of Frogan. But where we'll start is with the fact that over the past few days, we've seen the platform accused of ignoring anti-Semitism by creators like Ethan Klein. Multiple content creators have been banned for what were deemed hateful comments, and all of the fallout that's come from that as creators and fans go after one another. Though technically, you could say that all of this started when Asmongold made his horrendous comments last week degrading Gazans, which, as we covered on the show, was something he apologized profusely for after getting banned. But then the spotlight on the situation shifted after Klein put out a video last Thursday called Twitch Has a Major Problem. And in that video, Ethan claims that Twitch harbors anti-Semites and actively ignores it. And as some evidence, he points out that Twitch recently unbanned Sneeko and Fresh and Fit, or content creators that are unambiguously anti-Semitic. And then on top of that, he highlighted this segment from
Yeah, so it's funny that they're lopping in
an official panel at TwitchCon, where multiple Arab content creators alongside some non-Arabs made a tier list.
Well,
right. So again, they're conflating. I'll just let it play out.
It's a panel hosted by Frogan and 4 of her friends, in which they have a tier list where they rate people where good is Arab, and bottom is Love's Sabra. Sabra is a very popular hummus brand. I know
It's dog shit hummus. I can tell you right now. Of all the hummuses, it's dog shit. And he's going to say Israelis love Sabra hummus. And if somebody's been to Israel, I'm pretty sure they never gave us Sabra hummus. I'm pretty sure Israelis don't even like Sabra hummus. It's just like, it's bad. It's like low tier. Which is why on their tier list, it was on the lowest tier. But he's conflating people like Sneeko and the Fresh and Fit guys who are actually anti-Semitic. They do not like Jews. And they shouldn't have gotten unbanned from Twitch. And have since been banned from Twitch. Which is so funny. But he's now conflating them with Arabs who were just doing like a fun, meme tier list as a joke. And Ethan's going through what I would call a Kanye level manic episode. It has only gotten worse since October 7th. Only gotten worse. He's deteriorated. Now he's just going after anybody who's anti-Semitic. There are in the Arab podcast, they have they're three Arabs. One is Muslim, one is Christian, and one is Jewish. Right? And they all got banned for a ridiculous reason.
Israel, it's pretty much in everybody's refrigerator, and it's kosher. They're an American company, but they've been the subject of the pro-Palestine boycott. I mean, it's kind of just Arab good, Jew bad. I mean, I'm having a hard time seeing this any other way, and what's crazy is that I've been suspecting that Twitch has an anti-Semitism problem. Obviously, it started with Hassan platforming Houthi terrorists and showing unfettered.
Hilarious, by the way. Hilarious. Because Hassan has since come out and said, because he interviewed this guy who has done PR stuff for the Houthis. He has explicitly said he is not a Houthi. He is just a Yemeni guy. He's just a Yemeni content creator who makes stuff. And then he showed this music video, which is literally just like a whatever.
Terrorist propaganda on his channel.
And then along with that, Klein also added,
If they were really serious about anti-Semitism, Sneeko, the Fresh and Fit, would never have been brought back to the platform. It's just a no-brainer, right? But they were welcomed back with open arms. And I mean, their whole platform essentially for the past year has just been anti-Semitism. I'm not even kidding. That's literally all they talk about.
Now, all of that then led to Frogan.
Okay. That part I agree with. They shouldn't have been allowed back to Twitch. That was so wild. Because I don't know who made that decision, because it's just a PR nightmare. They're literally, all the Fresh and Fit guys talk about is how much they hate women. They're huge misogynists. They just hate women. They believe that you can only be a man if you are toxic, if you treat women like dirt. They also hate trans people. They hate the LGBTQ community. They hate anyone who's not an alpha male, despite the fact that they are fucking betas. And one of them is a Fed. It's literally a federal agent, was. The other one is a cuck who refuses to pay for his baby mama to... He wants it... He's... Oh my God. They just infuriate me so much. Every time I've seen videos with the Fresh and Fit guys, I just like... I want to do bad things to them. In a video game. I want to do bad things to them in a video game.
Who's a mod for Hassan Piker's stream and also streams herself, responding and writing on Twitter. Ethan Klein lied again and said myself, Arabs, which is the show, and our guest did a tier list where, quote, good equals...
Okay, and one of the people on that panel, Vio, who was simply there wearing an egg costume, said nothing, was just there, also got a ban. For doing nothing, just for being there. None of the producers got it. It was crazy.
Arab and Jew equals bad, which isn't what happened.
Listen, they put friends. This was a fun, jokey tier list, right? They have Mike from PA, the Central Committee guy, who is, I'm not actually sure of his relationship with Vio. I believe they're partners. They live together. But they put him in the Love Sabra category, along with Ethan Klein and Sneeko and Asmongold. Right? Like, it's a joke. It's supposed to be a joke. Right? I mean, they put I should speak. That one makes sense. Like, thinks it's a slur. Yeah. See, it's supposed to be a joke, right? It's supposed to be funny. It's not supposed to be so serious. It's not anti-Semitic.
Tier list was, quote, who has Habibi Pass, which is a meme tier list we did with a variety of creators. Here is the clip with the context, rather than sharing a clip from that event and adding. The whole basis of my podcast, Arabs with Capri and Raf, is that we are all Arabs from different religious backgrounds. I am Muslim, Capri is Christian, and Raf is Jewish. Sabra hummus is objectively the worst hummus to exist and is the unfortunate standard of hummus in the US. Right, and so with that, you had some feeling that was a reasonable response, though others still called it a dog whistle to say Israeli without saying, especially given the context Klein gave earlier about its popularity in Israel. However, all of that was kind of just the tip of the iceberg, because Frogan ended up deciding just a day later.
It's also because Ethan is conflating Israeli Zionists with Jews. He's saying just because you don't like Zionists, just because you don't like Israelis, you don't like Israeli Zionists, you don't like Jews, you're anti-Semitic. Well, I don't like Zionists. I guess that makes me anti-Semitic, right? I'm an anti-Semitic Jew. And they literally did that when he was like, oh, this tier list, this Arab podcast, they're anti-Semitic. There's a literal Jew as part of the show. What, you calling him anti-Semitic? It's ridiculous. I mean, he did cop a 30-day ban, so I guess they did. So I guess Twitch was like, yeah, he is anti-Semitic. He's a Jew. He's a literal Jew from Lebanon. Like, you cannot get more Jewish than that. He is a Jew living from the Levant. From the historical homeland of the Jewish people. You're calling a Semite somebody who was from that area. Now, anti-Semitism has been referred to definitionally wise as being anti-Jew. But if you break it down, Semite is somebody who comes from that area, who comes from the Levant, from Palestine, Israel, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, that area those are Semites. So that also includes Arabs. That includes Muslims. That includes Christians. That includes numerous other ethnic groups that are not Jews. So when you say anti-Semitism, you're not just referring to Jews. You're referring to anybody who is from that area. And that is why it gets so conflated. Because you have Ashkenazi Jews who come from Europe And they're saying that these this Lebanese people, they're anti-Semitic. They don't believe in the homeland. No. If anyone's being anti-Semitic, it's the Zionists, right? Because they come, create a settler colony. They don't integrate with the people there. There were Jews that were living in Palestine before Zionists came. They had integrated. They spoke Arabic. Their children went to school with Arab children. They were part of the community. It's the thing. Jews and Muslims, they share a lot of various... I mean, they're both Abrahamic religions. They both don't eat pork. So, if something is halal, it's kosher for the most part. I mean, if something's kosher, it's halal. But they share a lot together. And they've been living together side by side for hundreds of years. There were Jews in historical Palestine when the Arabs came and created a caliphate. There were Jews when the Crusaders came, when Crusaders came from Europe. There were Jews living in that area. There were Jews there during the Ottoman Empire. There have always been Jews in that area. Sure, Jews have been oppressed throughout, really anywhere that they're sent. In Europe, you have the pogroms. You have a lot of anti-Jewish sentiment. And then you see that a lot in our media, in historical works, like in Shakespeare, you have The Merchant of Venice. You have all of these sort of stereotypes, and then you have the Holocaust, which happens, exterminating large populations of Jews. And so you see a lot in the West, you see a lot of anti-Jewish sentiment. And now that is being conflated to, you have these people. You have Arabs, which hate us, which hate the Jews because we're Jews. No, they hate you because you're a settler, because you're living in somebody else's house that your family kicked them out of. A bunch of soldiers came in one day, kicked this person out of their house, forced them into a refugee camp. Yeah, I'd be pissed off too if somebody did that to me. And I wouldn't like that person. I wouldn't like that person because of their beliefs. Now, there is legitimate anti-Semitism that occurs. And when you call these people anti-Semitic, you're really, really downplaying actual anti-Semitism. Because you have people like Sneeko and Fresh and Fit who are pro-Palestine. But not for any altruistic reasons. They're not for the liberation of, marginalized individuals. You have people like Nick Fuentes, too, who don't like Israel. But he doesn't like Israel for one reason. It's because he doesn't like Jews. It's not because he's like some crusader for the Palestinian cause, for the emancipation of those under imperialism. No, he just hates Jews. That's it. He's a Nazi. These people are just trying to have fun. They're trying to laugh in the face of something that is outwardly being destroyed. Their homes, their families are currently being bombed by Israel. And they're just trying to have a little fun. They're trying not to feel sad and depressed about this. They're just trying to laugh. They're just trying, and now they have Ethan Klein, they have the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, more like the Apartheid Defense League, are coming down to Twitch and being like, you have to ban these people. They're anti-Semites. You see? They put Sabra at the bottom. Now, Sabra is also a term used to describe Israeli Jews, like Jews born in Israel. But that's not what they were talking about. They were literally talking about the hummus brand. And they put it at the bottom because it's dog shit. And they're right.
To open up an entirely new can of worms after saying on stream,
I have no pity at all for any fucking soldiers. I will never have any fucking pity for any fucking soldiers. U.S. military? Who fucking who? I hope you get PTSD. The ones the ones I'm like whatever about the U.S. soldiers are the ones that like acknowledge that like what they did was wrong. They didn't know back then. Whatever. You're a good person in my book. The U.S. military that are like, yeah, like, you know, I did this back then, but now I know it's wrong. Like, I'm changed. Like, imperialism. This, you don't deserve the PTSD. But like any other motherfucker, you're joining them. You're like, oh my god, I want my fucking Camaro, no student loans. Fuck you. I hope you get PTSD, and I hope you get no health insurance when you get back in.
That's a perfectly reasonable take. She even specified, hey, listen, we understand sometimes people serve in the military for all sorts of different reasons. Some do it because, to escape poverty, to get, to pay for school, for all sorts of reasons. There's all sorts of reasons people join the military. And for a lot of them, they understand that what they did was fucked up. Many of them come home and they do have PTSD about all of the shit that they did, about all the lives that they ended, about, going over to another country, going through somebody's house and killing them because they had a gun too. And you realize, wait, if we weren't at war and I wasn't going into this guy's house uninvited and he was just trying to defend his family, we might have actually gotten along. And then they realize that. And then they come back and they're like, what we did was fucked up. We went to Iraq because we thought that they had weapons of mass destruction, and we were lied to. We were lied to by our own government. We went to Afghanistan because we were trying to find the guy who started 9/11. We were trying to find the guy who perpetrated 9/11. We were trying to find Osama bin Laden. But we spent 20 years in the country. We spent time there after we had killed him. Not in Afghanistan. We found him in Pakistan, a totally different country. But then we still decided to stay. For what reason? Because we kicked out the oppressive Shia regime that we helped fund to get in there because they fought the Soviets because we didn't want the Soviets to win. After we forced them to go to Afghanistan and fight a useless war, which helped cause their collapse. And then those same people who we helped train then go and take over the country and implement Sharia law, become repressive. And we're like, oh, we got to kick them out. So we do. We don't actually. We end up siding with other warlords who are just as repressive, sometimes worse. We paid off pedophiles. We paid off mass murderers, genociders. We took over their poppy production. We made sure that their poppy production could still maintain. And then when we leave, as we are leaving, the Taliban are coming back in, and now we're right back where we started 20 years ago. They're back in, and instead of holding AKs, now they got all of our M4s. They got all of our equipment that we left behind. Those people who she is saying do not deserve PTSD. The people who go in there are like, I just want my car, and I want to kill brown people. I want to have an excuse to kill people. Those people deserve a PTSD, and I totally agree with her on that. Now, would this have been a justifiable reason for her to get a ban? Arguably, sure. I don't agree with it. Many others don't agree with it. But as far as arguments go, it's a spicy take. And so she getting a ban for this take, might be warranted. But no, that's not why she got banned.
In America.
Now with that, she did eventually give a sorta apology, but even with that, many users pointed out that Twitch's hateful conduct specifically covers veteran status, so they argued that she should be banned, arguing things like Twitch ban logic, Rogan saying military service members should get PTSD, no suspension, E-Girl streams softcore porn, 24-hour suspension, Asmongold calling Muslims inferior, 14-day suspension, being a Jew in Israel, unable to even create an account on the website, which I'll say we're going to talk about that last bit at the end of this story, but like always with situations like this led to people digging up old clips of her saying other questionable things, like with a clip where it appears that she may be hinting that her cousin may be involved with Hezbollah. But either way, by Monday, Twitch eventually cracked down and banned Frogan, which led many to believe that it was because she was wishing American veterans get PTSD. However, it appears that that is not the official reason. Instead, it appears that it was because of her comments on that TwitchCon panel, which is over a month ago, because they also banned the others on that panel, which also led to calls that it was being racist against Middle Eastern voices.
Right. They banned all of the members of the ARAB podcast. They also banned VO, who was simply just sitting there in an egg costume. And, oh God, I forget her name. But one other who was also there. Denims, who was there as a guest. She also caught a stray. Just for being there. And they were it's infuriating.
And then on top of that, Twitch permanently banned Sneeko, something that Klein felt was necessary if they wanted to tackle anti-Semitism.
That I'm perfectly okay with. He should have never been accepted on the platform in the first place. Because he is actually an anti-Semite. He's actually a Nazi. And it's so funny because it's so funny that he went down the right-wing pipeline because they all hate him. They all call him a dog and cat eater because he's part Haitian. And he wouldn't just like go along with when Trump was saying that, you know, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. He was just like, I'm going to go to Haiti and show them the real story. And his fans, they called him slurs.
Anti-Semitism seriously. And it also looks like the decision was in part taken because of pressure from the Anti-Defamation League, with the ADL even tweeting out a whole thread on this that started by saying, ADL spoke with the Twitch staff today after becoming aware of several concerning incidents on the social media platform and/or involving Twitch streamers in the past week, with them then going on to mention Frogan by name. And so with all this, we've seen Frogan not happy with her 30-day ban, saying 30-day ban for saying people like bottom-of-the-barrel hummus, but other people get 2 weeks for advocating for the genocide of Palestinians. Got it. Or with that last part, a pretty obvious reference to Asmongold's ban. But with all of that said, like, that doesn't even bring us close to the end of all this. Because after the ban of Frogan and others on that panel, many of whom were avid pro-Palestinian voices, content creators like Hassan Piker began to react in frustration. And in particular to a lot of these controversies being spread and encouraged by various subreddits and the creators associated with them, to which Hassan said,
there is no winning in this battle. Okay? There is no winning in this battle. There's nothing you and I or this community or anyone can do. Nothing at all. This is precisely the reason why I just eat it every fucking day. Okay? For the past 12 months, this has been endless. Okay? When they can't get anything off of me and my statements, then they fucking turn around and, pick apart different statements from the chat. If they can't do that, they go after people that are also pro-Palestinian, but have smaller audiences.
Hassan then went on to claim that many people's opinions are turned into a caricature of who they are. Like, for example, he says that Muslim people are often painted as anti-Semitic no matter what, and with that arguing that there isn't much he can do to change people's minds about it.
There is nothing I can do. There is nothing I can do. All I can do is just take it. Just like all Capri Sun Poppy and Frogan and everyone else that's getting banned in this mass ban wave, that all they can do is take it.
But then at almost the exact same time Hassan was making these statements on his stream, Klein was also streaming. With most of that criticizing Twitch for having an anti-Semitism problem, right? Talking about the recent unbans and criticizing people like Hassan for letting it become commonplace on Twitch. And among his problems with Hassan is that he's promoting this guy from Yemen who many think, Klein included, is actively involved in Houthi piracy. So this is others argue that at the very least, he's just a guy that is extremely anti-Semitic. Klein also blasted Hassan and others because of clips like this.
I think like anyone who does our general job, and especially someone like him who I only make $3 million a month. I'm middle class. He makes $30 million a month.
He's upper middle class.
He's upper middle class, and it's like, we won the lottery. Why are you bitching about the...
This motherfucker says you are rich, so why do you care about anti-Semitism? Also, like, Hassan is as rich, like probably as rich as I am. Let's be honest. He downplays his wealth. He gets like the same concurrent viewers as we do, and he collects all the money straight to the dome himself. Okay, so like the same logic. Just say, hey, son, why are you getting so worked up about Gaza, man? We won the lottery. You're rich, dude. Just chill. Like, what a pathetic fucking response.
And honestly, I mean, for this part, it kind of just goes on and on from there because they're doing all these during live streams. We're talking about tons and tons of hours. I'll link to it down below. It's just something we can't cover point by point in this show. So if you want to do an even deeper dive, you have the tools at your fingertips. But then, as I promised I would come back and touch on, something that many people have pointed to as proof that Twitch was being anti-Semitic is the fact that Israelis weren't able to sign up to the site. Right? Among others, you had political commentators like Destiny bringing this up, and also Twitch said that it fixed it shortly afterward, saying when signing up for a Twitch account, you can select an account verification method, email or phone, for added protection. Following the October 7th, 2023 attacks, we temporarily disabled signups with email verification in Israel and Palestine. And going on to claim we did this to prevent uploads of graphic material related to the attack and to protect the safety of users. But Twitch then going on to say that not letting users sign up with an email later on, that was a mistake and just an oversight and that it's fixed now. So this, as you might have noticed, there was a big community note on that. With that note claiming that Twitch's explanation is not true and that even phone verification signups weren't working. But with now all of that said and as things continue to play out in real time, I gotta pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts with this mess? Any and all of it. I know there are a number of things at play here. Any and all of it. I'd love to hear from you in those comments down below. But then, taking a quick break from the news, does anyone else equate fall with the ultimate comfort vibe? And
okay. Yeah, that's all he kind of covers about that. And I pretty much said all of that I think about this. It's kind of ridiculous that these people received a ban for something that for a joke that they made. Yeah. It's infuriating. It really is. And because they didn't do anything wrong. It's illegal to make jokes now. It's illegal to be sarcastic. It's illegal for marginalized people to joke about the circumstances in which they're under. Yeah. Oh, this was a very fun show to come back to. All right, but I think this is where I'm going to end it today. Yo. All right. Cool. We're just going to pull back the Matrix for a little bit. I want to thank everybody for watching. Going to try to be more consistent. So Tuesdays, around 9 p.m. every week. We'll do a little show. And then usually once another day of the week, we'll do some gaming. We'll do some other fun stuff. Stuff that's not so freaking depressing. But anyways, thank you all for joining. And I'll see you next time. Bye.